It was the winter of 1985, and I was just a scrawny 12-year-old kid named Tommy Hargrove, living in the sleepy suburb of Wheaton, Illinois, right outside Chicago, where the wind howled like a banshee off Lake Michigan and the snow piled up higher than my dad's old Ford LTD. My family was your typical Reagan-era clan. Dad, Frank, worked as a salesman for Zenith Electronics, always bragging about how our new 19-inch color TV with remote control was the future. Mom, Linda, was a homemaker who baked Toll House cookies and listened to Madonna's Like a Virgin on her cassette player while folding laundry. Then there were my siblings. Older brother Buzz, who was 15 and obsessed with his Rubik's Cube and Breakin' soundtrack, and little sister Megan, 8, who carried her Cabbage Patch Kid everywhere like it was her lifeline. That Christmas break, the Hargroves were heading to Paris for a fancy vacation. Dad's big bonus from selling those bulky VCRs finally paid off. We'd been planning it for months, watching European vacation trailers on MTV and dreaming of the Eiffel Tower. But in the chaos of packing, suitcases spilling over with Izod shirts, leg warmers, and my Pac-Man pajamas, something went wrong. I remember the fight vividly. Buzz had hidden my favorite Ghostbusters action figure in the basement as a prank, and I stormed off to the attic to sulk, blasting Thriller on my Walkman to drown out the yelling downstairs. Next thing I knew, I woke up to silence. The house was empty. The airport shuttle had come and gone without me. I raced downstairs, heart pounding like the bass in Billie Jean, only to find a note on the fridge. "Tommy, be good. We'll call from O'Hare. Love, Mom." But they never did. The phones were acting up. Probably that ice storm knocking out the lines, like the one that canceled school last February. I was home alone. At first, it was awesome. I raided the freezer for Geno's pizza rolls, cranked up the volume on our Betamax to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street, which Buzz had snuck home from the video store, and built a fort out of Mom's Laura Ashley couch cushions. Little did I know that night would turn into my own personal horror show, straight out of those late-night creature features on WGN. The sun set early that December, around 4:30 p.m., casting long shadows through our bay windows like fingers reaching from the grave. Wheaton wasn't exactly a hotbed of crime. Our biggest scandal was when old Mrs. Finkelstein down the street got her mailbox egged during Halloween. But there were rumors. Whispers at school about the Wheaton Wraith, a drifter who'd been spotted lurking around the abandoned DuPage County Fairgrounds. Kids said he was a Vietnam vet gone mad, wearing a tattered army jacket and carrying a rusty hunting knife. The local paper, the Daily Herald, had run a story back in '83 about unsolved disappearances. Pets first, then a jogger named Sally Perkins who vanished while listening to her Sony Sports Walkman along the Illinois prairie path. But hey, I was a kid hyped on Sugar Smacks and the A-Team. I didn't believe in boogeymen. That first evening, I decided to make the best of it. I popped in a VHS of Gremlins, perfect for the holidays, and scarfed down a bowl of Cap'n Crunch while the wind rattled the shutters. Around 8 p.m., the power flickered. Not unusual. ComEd lines were always glitchy in storms. But then I heard it, a soft thump from the backyard. Like someone tripping over the sled we'd left out after last week's snowball fight. I paused the tape, Gizmo's cute face frozen on screen, and tiptoed to the kitchen window. The backyard was a blanket of white, illuminated by the neighbor's Christmas lights. Those tacky inflatable Santas that Mr. Kowalski next door loved. Nothing. Probably just a raccoon knocking over the trash bins again. I shrugged it off and headed upstairs to my room, where my Atari 2600 waited. I fired up Pitfall, and lost myself in swinging vines and jumping crocs, the joystick sticky from too many Kool-Aid spills. But around midnight the thumps returned, louder this time from the front porch. My heart skipped like a scratched record. I crept to the living room, peering through the curtains, footprints, fresh ones, crunching through the snow toward our door. Big boots, like the Timberlands Dad wore for shoveling. But Dad was in Paris, or at least en route. I bolted the door, remembering the latch that always stuck, and ran back upstairs, hiding under my Star Wars comforter. The next morning, December 23rd, I woke to the phone ringing. Finally. But when I picked up, it was just static, crackling like the interference on our old Magnavox radio during Cubs games. "Mom? Dad?" I yelled into the receiver. Nothing. The lines were still down. I ventured outside, bundling up in my members-only jacket and moon boots, to check those footprints. They circled the house, stopping at each window like someone was casing the joint. Burglars? In Wheaton? Nah, probably just kids from school pulling a prank, inspired by Ferris Bueller's Day Off rumors swirling around Chicago sets. I spent the day fortifying the place, Home Alone style, but with a twist of terror brewing in my gut. I rigged the basement stairs with my Micro Machines cars, tiny metal death traps for any intruder. The front door got a bucket of water balanced on top, ready to freeze anyone dumb enough to break in. For the back, I smeared Vaseline on the doorknob and scattered thumbtacks like caltrops from Dungeons and Dragons. Lunch was Chef Boyardee ravioli heated in the microwave, our fancy new Sharp carousel model, and I watched The Goonies to pump myself up. "Hey, you guys," I'd yell at the screen, wishing I had a crew like that. As dusk fell, the real nightmare began. I was in the den, flipping through Dad's stack of Playboy magazines he'd hidden behind the Encyclopedia Britannica. Hey, I was curious when the doorbell rang. Ding dong, like the Avon lady. But who rings at 6 p.m. in a blizzard? I peeked through the peephole, distorted by the frost, and saw a man. Tall, gaunt, in a hooded parka that hid his face. He rang again, then knocked. "Pizza delivery," he shouted, voice muffled by the wind. Pizza? We hadn't ordered any. My stomach twisted. I remembered the story from Mr. Nightmare's tapes. Buzz had a bootleg cassette of scary stories narrated in that deep, gravelly voice, warning about strangers at the door. Little pigs, let me in," I whispered to myself, channeling The Shining. I didn't answer. He knocked harder, then tried the knob. It jiggled. My heart hammered like Ringo Starr's drums in Yellow Submarine. Finally he left, but not before I heard him mutter, "I'll be back, kid." Panic set in. I called the police on our rotary phone. Dialing 911 felt like it took forever, but the line was dead. Completely. No dial tone, just silence. The storm? Or something worse? I barricaded myself in the attic, surrounded by old family photos. Me as a baby in '73, during the oil crisis, Dad in his bell-bottoms. I tried the radio, tuning to WLS. AM for the top 40 countdown. Phil Collins' Sussudio played, but interrupted by a news bulletin. Authorities warn of escaped convict Harlan Grimes, last seen near Wheaton. Armed and dangerous. Do not approach. Harlan Grimes, the Wheaton Wraith. I'd heard the name at school. Supposedly killed his family in '79 with a hatchet. Escaped Joliet prison during a power outage. Kids said he targeted empty houses, leaving behind bloody handprints like in Friday the 13th. Was that him at the door? My mind raced to Poltergeist, that scene with the clown doll. Our attic had one just like it, from Grandma's estate sale. I shoved it in a box, whispering, "There he here." Night 2 was hell. Around 10 p.m., the power cut out for good. No lights, no heat, just the glow from my light bright set plugged into nothing. I huddled by the fireplace, poking logs with Dad's poker, when I heard scratching from the chimney, like nails on brick. Santa? No way. I grabbed the poker, hand shaking. A soot-covered arm reached down, pale, veined fingers clawing. I screamed and jabbed upward. A yelp, then retreat. Was it Grimes? Or something supernatural, like the demons in The Exorcist? I fled to the basement where the fuse box was. Flicking switches did nothing. But down there, in the dim flashlight beam my Eveready with dying batteries, I found Buzz's old Ouija board from that '84 slumber party. Stupidly, I set it up, placing the planchette. "Who are you?" I asked, voice quivering. It moved HARLAN, then HUNGRY. Terror gripped me. I smashed the board with a hammer from Dad's toolbox, splintering it like the Berlin Wall wouldn't for another 4 years. Upstairs, windows rattled, not wind but pounding. From all sides, I peeked out, shadows circling the house. One, two, more? Grimes and accomplices? Or hallucinations from too much high-C ecto-cooler? I booby-trapped everything. The kitchen floor got slathered in Crisco, slippery as ice skates. Stairs, marbles from my Hungry Hippos game. Living room, fishing line from Dad's tackle box, strung at ankle height. I armed myself with Buzz's BB gun, Red Ryder model just like in A Christmas Story, and waited in the hallway, Eye of the Tiger from Rocky Theatre playing in my head for courage. Midnight struck. The back door crashed open. Someone had picked the lock. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, slip, thud. The Crisco worked. A curse echoed. Damn kid. Grimes's voice, raspy like Freddy Krueger. I pumped the BB gun and fired blind into the dark. Ping. A groan. He stumbled forward, silhouette massive in the moonlight. Come out, Tommy boy, he growled. How did he know my name? From the mailbox. Or something worse. He hit the marbles, crashed down the stairs. I heard bones crack like twigs in E.T. But he rose, laughing maniacally. You think toys will stop me? I ate kids like you and Nam? I retreated to the attic ladder, pulling it up behind me. He hacked at the door with what sounded like an axe. Thunk, thunk. Splinters flew. I pushed furniture against it, an old dresser full of Mom's Jordan jeans. The siege lasted hours. He taunted me with stories, how he'd watched our house for weeks, seen us through the windows during Dynasty reruns. Your sister's doll? I left it outside last week. Megan's cabbage patch had gone missing. We found it muddy in the yard. Coincidence? No. Dawn broke on Christmas Eve. Silence. I lowered the ladder, poker in hand. The house was trashed, blood smears on walls like finger paint from hell. Downstairs, no body. Just tracks leading out. Had he fled? Or was he hiding? I ventured outside, snow crunching under my boots. Neighbors' houses glowed with lights. Why hadn't they heard? Power back on everywhere but ours. Then I saw it. Our phone line cut clean. Deliberate. Sirens wailed in the distance. Police? Finally. But as I waved down the cruiser, a chill hit. The cop stepped out. Tall, gaunt, smiling. You okay, kid? Heard about the escaped con. His badge read, Officer Grimes. No. Impossible. I bolted back inside, slamming the door. Was it him? A disguise? Or paranoia? The family returned that afternoon, flight delayed by weather. They found me catatonic, babbling about the Wraith. Police investigated. No evidence, just my overactive imagination from too many horror flicks. But I knew. Grimes was real. And somewhere out there in the 80s haze of neon and synth pop, he waited. Years later, in 2025, I still check locks, avoid chimneys. And every Christmas when Home Alone plays, wait, that came out in '90. But back then, my story was the original. The one that didn't end with laughs. Wait, that's not the end. Last year, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a rusty knife, etched with Merry Christmas, Tommy Boy. And a note. I'll be home for the holidays. It was December 1987, and I was 13. A gangly kid named Danny Kessler, living in the quiet town of Willow Creek, Ohio. A place so small it barely showed up on maps, nestled between cornfields and the Cuyahoga River. Our house on Maple Street was a split-level ranch, complete with avocado green shag carpet and a wood-paneled rec room where my family gathered to watch ALF on our RCA color track TV. My dad, Mike, was a shift supervisor at the Goodyear plant in Akron, always smelling faintly of rubber and quoting Reagan's Morning in America speeches. Mom, Diane, was a part-time librarian who loved her Walkman loaded with Whitney Houston's I Wanna Dance with Somebody. My older sister Jenny, 16, was glued to her crimping iron and Dirty Dancing soundtrack, while my kid brother Timmy, 9, was obsessed with his Transformers Optimus Prime toy and slurping Capri Sun pouches. That Christmas, the Kesslers were headed to Florida to visit Grandma in St. Petersburg. Dad had saved up from overtime to rent a condo near the beach, promising us a break from the Ohio slush. We were hyped, packing our JCPenney duffels with Swatch watches, neon tank tops, and flip-flops, dreaming of palm trees while Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet blared from Jenny's boombox. But in the pre-dawn rush on December 22nd, things went sideways. I'd stayed up late playing Zelda on my Nintendo Entertainment System, got into a shouting match with Jenny over who'd hogged the bathroom, and stormed off to the attic to crash on an old beanbag, my Sony Walkman blasting Tears for Fears Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I woke up at noon to an eerie quiet. No clatter of Mom's Tupperware, no Dad yelling about the Browns game. The house was empty. They'd left for the airport without me, probably thinking I was in the van, hidden behind Timmy's He-Man sleeping bag. A post-it on the fridge read, "Danny, stay put. Call Aunt Carol if you need us. Back in a week. Dad." Problem was, the phone lines were down. Some ice storm had knocked out half the town's power, like when we lost cable during the '86 Super Bowl. I was alone, and at first, it was a kid's dream. I raided the pantry for Pop-Tarts, cranked Back to the Future on our VHS player, and skateboarded through the living room on my Vision Street wearboard, dodging Mom's Precious Moments figurines. Willow Creek was safe, or so we thought. It was the kind of place where folks left doors unlocked and kids rode huffy bikes until streetlights flickered on. But there were stories, urban legends swapped at the roller rink, or over Slurpees at the 7-Eleven. The Willow Creek Watcher, they called him, a loner, maybe a drifter, spotted near the old mill by the river. Back in '84, the Willow Creek Gazette reported a string of break-ins. Nothing stolen, just creepy stuff like rearranged furniture or a single shoe missing. Some kids swore they saw a figure in a black coat, face hidden, watching from the woods during Little League games. My buddy Ricky claimed his dog, a mutt named Bandit, vanished after barking at something in the backyard last spring. Probably just coyotes, Dad said, but I wasn't so sure. That first night I was sprawled on the couch, munching Doritos and watching Fright Night on HBO when the lights flickered. Typical Ohio winter. Power lines sagged under ice like they were auditioning for a John Carpenter flick. Around 9 p.m., I heard a creak from the back porch. Not the wind, too rhythmic like boots on wood. I froze. Jerry Dandridge's vampire grin paused on the screen. I crept to the kitchen, peering through the sliding glass door. The backyard was a snow-dusted void, lit by the neighbor's flickering Rudolph lawn ornament. Then I saw it, tracks in the snow, leading from the woods to our deck. Big, uneven, like someone dragging a bad leg. I told myself it was Mr. Hensley, our nosy neighbor who chain-smoked camels and checked on everyone's property. But my gut churned like I'd eaten bad Taco Bell. I locked the doors, double-checked the windows, and grabbed Dad's Meglight from the garage. Its beam strong enough to spot raccoons in the trees. Back inside, I tried the phone again. Dead. Not even static, just a hollow silence that made my skin crawl, like the quiet before the jump scare in Halloween. Day 2, I decided to take charge, MacGyver style. I rigged the front door with a stack of empty Pepsi cans. Early warning system. The basement stairs got a layer of Hot Wheels tracks, slick enough to trip anyone dumb enough to sneak down. I smeared Vaseline on the back door handle and set up Timmy's GI Joe action figures like a perimeter guard on the windowsills. Lunch was a feast of SpaghettiOs and Mountain Dew, eaten while watching The Breakfast Club for the 10th time. "Don't you forget about me," I sang, trying to shake the unease. By dusk, the house felt like a fortress under siege. I was in the rec room, battling Bowser on Super Mario Bros., when the power cut out completely. No TV, no lights, just the hum of the fridge dying. I lit Mom's Yankee candles, mulberry scent, her favorite, and grabbed the Meglight. That's when I heard it, a low whistle, like the theme from The Twilight Zone, coming from the front yard. I peeked through the curtains. A figure stood under the streetlight, maybe 50 feet away. Tall, in a long black coat, face shadowed by a hood. He didn't move, just stood there, breath steaming in the cold. I ducked, heart pounding like a deaf leopard drum solo. Was this the Watcher? I remembered a story from Mr. Nightmare's creepy cassette tapes Jenny bought at a flea market. Tales of strangers stalking kids left alone, narrated in that chilling monotone. Some doors should never be opened, he'd say. I clutched Dad's old Louisville Slugger, the one he used in high school softball, and waited. The whistling stopped. Silence again, heavier than the snow outside. Around midnight, the phone rang. Impossible, with the lines down. I answered, hands trembling. Static. Then a voice, low and gravelly. Danny, you shouldn't be alone. Click. My name. How? The mailbox said Kessler family, no first names. I unplugged the phone, shaking like I'd seen the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in real life. I retreated to the attic, my safe zone, surrounded by Mom's old ABBA records and a box of Dad's Mad magazines. I tried the radio, our battery-powered Panasonic tuned to WARQ's Top 40. George Michael's Faith crackled through, but a news break cut in. Willow Creek residents urged to lock doors. Escaped patient from Akron Psychiatric Facility, Victor Slade, considered unstable. Last seen near Route 43. Slade. The Watcher? Rumors said he'd been locked up after setting fires in '82, muttering about cleansing houses. Kids at school said he carved his initials, V.S., into trees near his targets. I checked the windows. Scratches on the glass, fresh, like someone tested a knife's edge. Below, more footprints circled the house, deeper now, like he'd stood in place, watching. I rigged the attic hatch with a jump rope tied to a box of encyclopedias, pulled the ladder, and it crashed down like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. At 2 a.m., the real terror hit. A thud from the chimney. Not Santa. Something heavy scraping. I grabbed the fireplace poker, picturing gremlins, but with no cute Mog AI, just Stripe's evil grin. Soot spilled onto the hearth, then a gloved hand. I swung the poker, connecting with a crunch. A howl, human, not animal. You little brat, the voice snarled, retreating up the flue. I shoved the couch against the fireplace, panting. Downstairs, the back door rattled. Then the front. He was testing every entry. I ran to the basement, hiding behind Dad's workbench, clutching the slugger. The basement window, small, high up, shattered. Glass tinkled. A hand reached through, bloodied, groping for the latch. I swung, hitting fingers. Another scream. I'll gut you, Danny, he roared. I bolted upstairs, tripping over my own traps. Cans clattered. Hot Wheels skidded. He was inside now, footsteps heavy on the hardwood. I hid in Jenny's room, under her bed, surrounded by her Esprit perfume, and crumpled Tiger Beat magazines with Kirk Cameron's face. The door creaked open. Boots stopped inches from my face, scuffed and caked with snow. I know you're here, he whispered, voice like a warped cassette. He dragged something, a knife, across the wall. Hours passed. I stayed still, barely breathing, until sunlight crept through the blinds. Silence. I crawled out, bat in hand. The house was a war zone. Furniture toppled, blood on the floor. Mine or his. The back door hung open, tracks leading to the woods. Gone. For now. Cops arrived at noon, tipped off by Mrs. Hensley, who'd seen a vagrant from her window. They found VS carved into our oak tree. No arrest, no trace of Slade. My family returned that evening, blaming my imagination and too many Stephen King books. But I saw the fear in Mom's eyes when she noticed the scratches. Years later, in 2025, I moved back to Willow Creek. Last month, a letter arrived, no stamp. Inside, a Polaroid of our old house, taken that night, with a figure in a black coat at the edge. On the back, in jagged scrawl, Merry Christmas, Danny. I never left. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I upload daily horror videos. And let me know from where in the world are you watching in the comment section below.